Shaykhuna Abu Zahra already mentioned, yani the ayat linked to this. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ, for example. So whoever rules by anything which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by anything other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, then such are the disbelievers. Now the one who rules by what Allah has, by other than what Allah has revealed, so he rules by kufr, and then he backs it up with his police force, to go and arrest anyone who talks against it, for example, and he implements it through the court system. These are all evidences which prove that this person, he's a disbeliever in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's a disbeliever. As for the one who lives under it and remains silent upon it or supports it in this way, then not supports it, but yani lives according to it because there's no other choice, that person is not a disbeliever. The one who votes for it would be voting for something which is then haram. We know that. فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَيُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. No, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by your Lord, they will not believe until they make you the judge between everything which is between them. So you can't then go and bring in other legislators, other people who will rule by other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in order to resolve disputes between people. That goes against this ayah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أَفَحُكْمَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ. Do they seek the rule of Jahiliyyah? This is what the rule of anything other than Islam is. It's the rule of Jahiliyyah. So definitely, to rule by other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed is haram. And to vote for someone to then rule by other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed is also haram, because you're facilitating and electing him and showing your support for that through the ballot box. So definitely, voting is haram. And the one who says voting is the lesser of two evils, or voting for such and such a party is the lesser of two evils, it means that he is admitting in origin that the voting is haram, and that this system is a system which goes against our deen and our aqidah. The second point which I mentioned, the second criteria, the second factor, is it's linked to life and death. Remember that. And I said, okay, we'll even take in imprisonment, because some of the ulama mentioned imprisonment. How would that apply to voting? It would apply to voting, brothers, if people said, either you vote or we're going to kill you. That's how it would apply to voting. Or either you vote for this particular party or you're going to die if the other party gets in. You're going to be killed, for example. Or at a minimum you're going to be imprisoned if you don't vote. Or if you vote for this particular party and this other party gets in, you're going to be in prison if the other party gets in. If we look at that, brothers, we see that it doesn't apply to the situation of voting today. Voting is not even mandatory inside the first place. So definitely it's not an issue of necessity to go out and vote, and that we are being compelled to vote. Neither do we see the difference between these different parties to lead to the level of life and death. At least not for the Muslims inside the UK. This is the reality which maybe brothers might want to bring up inside the question and answers, which is really the lesser of two evils if we're going to really look at it closely. The third aspect which I mentioned was the aspect of the darura tuqaddaru biqadriha, is accounted or taken into account according to its limit. So for example, if someone breaks his arm, when they put the plaster on his arm, they can only cover that which is necessary. They shouldn't cover anything more, because he needs to have space for his wudu. I gave some other examples. Now, when people say voting, you need to vote in order to prevent the evil, they'll normally say something like, otherwise the BNP will get in. This is the only evil which they can point to, really, because everyone knows there's no big difference between Labour, Conservative and Liberal Democrats. So the only evil they are really pointing to, if they really want to say this is an evil, and if we really allow them to say it's an evil, is the BNP. In which case, they should be telling us, go and vote in those particular areas where the BNP is, and that's it. Don't go any further than that. Vote where it's completely necessary, because it's an evil. You shouldn't do any more than what is necessary. So if you go to an area and there's a Liberal Democrat, respect and Labour, leave them. Don't worry about such a thing. Just focus on where the BNP is, because this is the evil and we need to deal with that one particular aspect. Rather, brothers, unfortunately today, you find that everyone talks about political participation. They don't even talk about they talk about participation. They want everyone to go. Subhanallah, even some of the people who bring these principles and make these things, they say what? They say, it doesn't matter who you vote for, just vote. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Yani subhanallah, on the one hand, lesser of two evils, and on the other hand, you tell me it doesn't matter who to vote for, just vote. There's a massive contradiction here. A massive contradiction. The other factor which I mentioned is there's no other option. There shouldn't be any other option. We know very clearly there are other options, brothers. We shouldn't be fooled that politics is all about voting at the ballot box. In fact, that's not politics at all. That's a false politics. They keep saying change, change, change. No one gets any change. This is a reality. No one gets any change at any point. Really, our politics and the politics of the Muslim community living outside of the Muslim country should be on the grassroots. We have those options. That's the options that we have. So don't let anyone tell us that this is the lesser of two evils, you don't have any options. We have options. And then, brothers, just to bring a side point, I said that a darar shouldn't be removed with a greater darar. When these people, and we go around, may Allah forgive us all, telling the Muslims inside this country, vote, 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 because it's the lesser of two evils, what goes into the mind of the general Muslims inside this country? The average person just thinks it's okay to vote. The average person then begins to think, this system is okay for me. I can seek my benefits through this system. This system can resolve my problems. This system is something I should participate in. That's the greater darar, brothers. Because when someone starts to think like that, he's losing his aqeedah. He's losing his belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's losing his belief in the Quran, and that this Quran is the only way to judge between people. He's losing his belief in the Islamic system to run the affairs of mankind. He's losing this example, brothers, of when the Muslim community got together and voted en masse. Not inside this country, inside the United States. The Muslim community voted en masse, brothers, you know when? 2000. In the 2000 elections, the Muslim community voted en masse for one candidate. Why? Because they said the other candidate is backed by Zionists. And this candidate, he's a family man. So who was that candidate? And this candidate, brothers, he got in without even having the popular vote. Yani, he got in, we can say with a certainty actually, that if the Muslims didn't vote for that candidate, he wouldn't have got into office as the President of the United States. That's how close it was in the run. If the Muslims had stayed away or voted the other direction, the other candidate would have won. Who was the candidate that the Muslims put into office? George Bush.